Welcome to the Level Up to Freedom. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're staying safe and staying sane with everything that is going on. After lots of struggle of technology issues today, I was able to come to you. And I'm very glad we were able to solve some of the technology issues because I do have a very, very special guest with me today. She is not the first timer on my program, but she is the first timer on my program here on Lindell TV. Kristen Douglas Williams. She is an international award-winning journalist, author, columnist, and much more. I personally think she also should start saying she's somewhat of an expert on Islamic Republic of Iran, but I let her continue the introduction herself. Hi, Kristen.
It's great to be on with you again, Annie. I want to congratulate you with everything that you're doing because you're out there as an activist and many aren't as brave as you. So congratulations on that. So I'll get into a little bit about what I do now. I'm an associate editor with Front Page Magazine. I'm also a regular writer for Jihad Watch, public affairs and media consultant with the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem, on the board for Canadians for the Rule of Law, and I'm the author of 2 books, The Challenge of Modernizing Islam and Fired by the Government of Canada for Criticizing Islam, which was commissioned by Frank Gaffney and the Center for Security Policy. And the book is about myself because I got fired for criticizing Islam while I was a governor and council appointee, and just for calling out on Jihad Watch and on other writings like the Gatestone Institute and so forth, I was deemed to be Islamophobic. And it was CARECAN, now the National Council of Canadian Muslims, that weighed in and was very much a part and responsible of my firing with the federal government. I was also an appointee to the Office of Religious Freedoms, which was shut down when just not long after Justin Trudeau took office. So that's it in a nutshell about what I do, Annie.
You see, that's exactly why we get along perfect, because we are Islamophobes.
Annie, in Canada, you got to be careful here.
I know, I keep forgetting that. Actually, let's start there. Said Canada, let's be careful there. Sometimes I feel like no matter how much I scream on top of my lungs to my fellow Americans to understand what we have here, that no one else has outside of America, being our God-given rights, especially our First Amendment and Second Amendment, it feels like it just passed them by. Like, it just doesn't work. So talk about you being in Canada. Talk about Canadians. The difference between the rights we have here in America versus what you don't have in Canada. And I know we got to be careful, so I'm not expecting you to get to too much detail, but just general idea of what you deal with that we don't have to deal with because of our God-given rights here.
Annie, that's a very important question. In the United States, you guys have that amendment, the rights to free speech. And even that, under the Biden administration, you're being challenged. In Canada, we have a certain amount of so-called rights to free speech, although it depends on the government that you have. For instance, if you look at our criminal code, there's a part that talks about hate. And that entire aspect of the criminal code was intended for a specific type of hate. You can't go out there, for instance, and start talking about certain groups and say, oh, you hate this group, let's target this specific group. It's a pretty obvious thing, and it was actually fair in the beginning. But now you have a situation on your hands where there are certain types of individuals in the country that want to shut down free speech, that want to shut down the criticism, namely of Islam, and they have now dubbed anything that's critical of Islam hate, which it is not. Because I have never come out, and I never will come out and say all Muslims or start identifying Muslims as a particular people and start spewing against Muslims. I talk specifically on Jihad Watch, and when I write articles on Front Page Magazine or in my speeches about Islam, normative Islam, which is governed by Sharia law. That is considered divine law in Islam, and it is immutable. Now, in my book, The Challenge of Modernizing Islam, there is one fellow in particular that I want to highlight, and this is Dr. Sheikh Subi Mansour, who was the establisher of the Quranic sect in Egypt. He envisions a modernization of Islam. He does not ascribe to what the Sharia talks about in terms of its abuses, but he would like to see the modernization of Islam and more of a democratic, more of a human rights. Now, there are those that will say, and I hear them, that you cannot have an Islam that ascribes to human rights. My take, and this is my personal take, and I make it very clear in that book, if you are a follower of Islam and you want to be inspired by the history of Islam, and you say, look, I would like to see this religion modernized, I would like to see human rights inducted in the faith, I can't stand opposed to that. When you look at what's going on with women in Iran, when you look at what's going on with women across the board under the Sharia, for somebody like him to come up and say, look, there needs to be a human rights version of Islam, a modernization, I can't stand in the way of that. And that is the aspect of what I support, a modernization of it. It is the people that I want to see usurp what the tradition of Islam represents. So for so doing and discussing human rights and standing for the rights of women, I was fired by the government of Canada.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't giggle about that, but it does get, it's tragic, but at the same time, yes, it is so ridiculous that makes me giggle. Back to what you started saying at your sentence, it's interesting because in many of my speeches, public speaking engagements, I have said that I need you to pray for Muslim people because they are the number one victims of Islam themselves. No matter how much of terrorist attack, how much of bombing and shooting and all of that takes place, there are millions of Muslim girls and women facing persecution every single day of their life being a Muslim woman. But I face the same thing you do. I'm an Islamophobe. Or SPLC calls me an anti-Muslim activist. I fight for Muslim people every day by exposing Sharia, which is a system that is literally destroying as a Muslim, when I was raised as a Muslim, the first thing I was missing when I was finally in America and feeling the freedom, the first thing I was missing was humanity. I couldn't feel it inside me. There was nothing left. I had to rebuild that part of my life. So we're basically both saying the same thing in different sentences, but I guess this was my way of agreeing with what you said. Now, I do say that modernizing Islam, it's absolutely mission impossible just based on how many people are going to die in order to reform this thing. You look at Baha'is right now. That's what they did. Baha'ism, part of it is the reform and modernize teachings of Islam. They are literally in prison or being killed every morning in Islamic countries, including Iran, for just simply trying.
My take is we need to keep trying, because my argument is, you look at the Ottoman Empire that fell after hundreds of years. It was from within. It was a group from within. It was actually Christians and Jews that were part of that group as well as the kind of Muslims that you're talking about and what I'm talking about. For example, Dr. Sheikh Subi Mansour. I've got some interruption here.
That's all right.
And okay, so the phone is going, the door is going. Okay, so here I am. So sorry for that interruption, Annie.
That's the beauty of live show. It's all right.
Somebody's breaking into my house.
Okay, if that's the case, we need to cut this off and do something.
No, nobody's breaking into my house. It's perfectly fine. Okay, I will continue. I just had to make sure. It's okay. It's my hubby. Okay.
Good. We're safe.
I'll continue what I was saying. When we look at the fall of the Ottoman Empire, it was that group. It was Jews, it was Christians, and it was the young people internally of the Ottoman Empire that said, look, we have to challenge this. And it did fall. It seemed to be mission impossible too, but it did fall. The same thing happened with the Soviet Union. Things happen from within. I'm a person of Christian faith, and I do have faith, and I do know that there are those who are fighting from within. The key is to marginalize the internal structure. We see what Iran is, Annie. We see what it represents. There are those that see what it represents, and this is actually taking us right in to what we were meant to discuss today. It is very troubling what we see happening with Iran, because this is a country, this represents Shia Islam. You and I both know what the meaning of the word marja is. This is the highest Shia authority, which is the Ayatollah Khamenei. The only higher force than this man is the Quran itself. He is the highest force, the marja. So whatever he says goes. There are those out there that will deceive you, as you and I both know, and make it look like, oh, we belong to Shia Islam, we believe in peace and so forth. When once they are on board with traditional mainstream Islam, normative Islam, they are ascribing to a certain line of thinking. The West has been infiltrated with these kinds of presences from Iran, from the Muslim Brotherhood primarily, and it continues. So anybody who is fighting it from within, we are in a position where we are being put aside as Islamophobes, or as you mentioned earlier on, now it's Iranphobes. Because they know the thinking of naive Westerners. They know the guilt of Westerners. And don't get me started about what's going on in the West, because they talk about this white guilt. Well, a lot of the West now are immigrants who do not support what the leftist agenda is, because a lot of immigrants came to Western countries because they wanted they wanted freedoms. They supported freedoms, only to have these liberals come and call us all kinds of names like Islamophobes, like racists, because there is a direct assault happening from within in the West.
Exactly. Hold that thought. We're up for our first sponsor break. Let's go hear from our sponsor, brand house product Extractivity. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back to discuss Iranophobe discussion with Christine. We'll be right back.
Extractivity is an all-natural energy and health drink developed by Brannon House several years ago with a team of experts. Extractivity supports a healthy heart, strong immunity, skin, hair and nails, cognitive health, and cellular health. This all-natural energy drink is loaded with antioxidants, but don't take our word for it. Do your own research to find the benefits of red wine extract, bilberry extract, grapeseed extract, pine bark extract, and vitamin C. Brannon credits Extractivity in part for his abundance of energy and good health. Order your 30-day supply now at mystore.com. Be sure to use the promo code on the screen for a generous discount. Extractivity, your all-natural source for energy and good health. Find it at mystore.com.
Welcome back to Live Up to Freedom. Thank you so much for staying with us. Please do grab your Extractivity on mystore.com using promo code AC21. I normally go into more details, but this discussion is way too heated for me to go into marketing. So just support us. Okay, Christine. By the way, my audience are familiar with this term of Iranphobe because I do report on Jihad Watch a lot, and a lot of time, of course, it's your work there. But I figured there is no better way to explain this whole situation but to bring you on to tell us about it. So let's dive in. Iranphobe. What?
It is almost identical to Islamophobe. Anything you criticize in Iran, you're now an Iranphobe. I mean, what is wrong with people? Do they not see the innocents that are getting abused at the hands of normative Islam globally, at the hands of Iran? The Christians do not push the Christian phobe, which they should be. They should be. But Iranphobe, this country, Iran, and you and I both know it, they talk about down with the great Satan, down with the little Satan, referring to America and Iran, and they call us phobic.
Israel.
They stone people, they kill women, and they talk about phobic. They imprison people arbitrarily, and they call us phobic.
I believe this was recently triggered by Joe Biden's comment in Middle East of something of we're not gonna just let Iran do whatever they want to do. Which, side note, who takes Joe Biden's word serious anyways?
Nobody.
Like everybody knows he's playing both sides.
This guy has Alzheimer's or dementia, some form of dementia. It's embarrassing. For people who have concerns just about a human being, it is horrible to watch this man in America, and it's even worse to watch him internationally from a humanitarian point of view. This man isn't, but as a leader, this man is not only embarrassing the United States, he is also trouble. He is also creating problems internationally. And the countries that he mentioned on his visit to the Middle East specifically as threats were China, Iran, and Russia. And this is where Iran talked about it, Iranphobia. The problem with Biden is that he has emboldened Iran, not only through this Iran deal, which anybody who has been following what it is, they'll realize that Iran long admitted, they openly admitted to violating the Iran deal of 2015. I mean, Netanyahu came right out and showed the proof, but okay, people could say, well, look, he made this up, which he had the proof, he didn't make it up. But following that, Iran came right out and admitted that they had violated the Iran deal. And the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency came right out and said, Iran is enriching uranium to only to levels found in countries making bombs. It is obvious what Iran has been doing. Iran has admitted what it's doing, and it's come out recently to admit again what it's doing in terms of its capabilities of making a bomb. So there is Biden allowing billions of dollars to flow into the coffers of Iran by not only supporting this deal, but embarrassingly giving over the negotiations of this deal to none other than Russia, first of all. So it's up for grabs. And then following that, less than a month later, about a month later, it ends up being in the hands of Qatar, who is a strong Muslim Brotherhood supporter. So he's just talk. When he talks about we're not going to let our enemies like Iran, like China, like Russia be a problem to us, it is just talk. At least he knows which countries to mention. I shouldn't, I shouldn't be laughing at something so serious. But if you don't laugh, you're gonna be on mental pills, because I'm telling you. This guy is emboldening every enemy. For the first time, we are now seeing America is up for grabs. We are seeing alliances now between Turkey, which is Sunni, and Iran, which is Shia, and Russia. What does this tell you, Annie? What does this tell you?
The moment, and funny enough, I kept emphasizing 16 hours after Biden left Middle East, they just had a summit in Iran, like overnight. There's a summit. I mean, my English is not that good, but I'm pretty sure you don't just whoop a summit up between Turkey, Syria, and Iran. It's like, let's talk. And funny enough, most of the reports in America, when I looked it up, it was kind of, they made it sound like, so Erdogan was just in Iran, just over the weekend for fun, and then Putin showed up. It's like, hey, since we're here, let's just chat. Like, how they're undermining the importance of this summit, it amazes me.
People don't ask questions anymore, Annie, and this is problematic, very problematic. You and I both know the schism that exists between Shia and Sunni. They will never come together. We also know this. We also know that Islam will never, I'm talking normative Islam, looking at nations like Turkey, which actually envisions a revival of the Ottoman Empire, like Iran, which also envisions the revival of the Persian Empire. You look at these countries, they're not going to negotiate. It's non-negotiable. It is a requirement in normative Islam that they capture, that they create the world into an Islamic caliphate. You and I both know this. This is a global mission in normative Islam. You also look at communism like China. That is also their mission. So how are these nations actually collaborating? They're collaborating because they have one thing in common right now, and that is the demise of the West. So you are looking at people like Joe Biden, like the other globalists of this world. What they're doing is that they're selling out the United States, they're selling out the West. They are treasonous. They're destroying the West from within, and they're working hand in hand with a communist vision. But in the end, they will face Islam, because Islam will never accept them as a global power any more than they will accept Islam as a global power. So in the end, they will collide, even though They're getting together now, the red-green axis, to destroy the West. In the end, they will divide.
And that is so interesting you say this. On a recent live stream, I actually mentioned that I said, we need to learn from them. We need to stop our internal little tiny disagreement, division, and unite as people, as humans. I have always said, this is a fight between humanity versus Islam. Because you don't find humanity in Islam. So if we don't unite, while they are uniting, that we know for a fact at the end they're going to have to fight each other. We who know we don't need to fight each other at the end of it, Christians, Jews, even atheists, Buddhists, I don't care, whatever you are, if we would just unite, instead of picking on each other, oh, you're this kind of a Christian, you're that kind of a Jew, I don't do the... If we would learn from them and start uniting, so we could pay attention to our number one enemy that, as you said, wants to fly their ISIS flag over our White House, maybe, just maybe, we would be in a little tiny bit of a better shape than we are today.
It's sad to say, Annie, but the only concern for leftist ideologue leaders are their own pocketbooks, and they are paid out by foreign funds. They are bought and paid. They're paid for. That's the bottom line. They are paid for. They don't care about the countries that elected them. They don't care about the taxpayers that voted them in. All they care about is their own pocketbook and their own families and whoever belongs to their circle. They're the reason we refer to the elites, not because we see them as some grand elite to be admired, but because they are a certain force that governs from a throne, so to speak. But in the end, they don't care who suffers. They don't care. They have flung the doors open widely to immigration, have called all of us who have concerns about immigration, Islamophobes, racists, anti-immigrant, but they're the people that have their doors locked at night, that have their cars locked, that even use taxpayer money to allow them to walk free while we suffer. They don't care about society. They only care about the money they have. They're easily bought out by foreign entities. And this is precisely what's happening. And
exactly.
The media is also bought out by these governments.
Sadly. We are up for our second sponsor spot. Let's go hear from Mike Lindell and his brand new product, My Coffee, which is now available on mystore.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and I'm excited to announce my new product, My Coffee. I get products all the time from entrepreneurs for my new platform, mystore.com. And when I tried My Coffee for the first time, I was blown away. It is the best coffee I've ever had in my life. I spent the last 4 months doing my due diligence, and this family-owned business micromanages every step from the fields to the cup to ensure the best quality coffee you're ever going to have. It starts with the beans that are grown in Honduras. Honduras's volcanic soil and humid climate make the perfect growing conditions for coffee plants, which produce the best beans ever. Then each batch is tested for its aroma, taste, and other aspects to meet the highest standards in the coffee industry. And after that, it goes into production, which is all done right here in the USA. It's like you're getting that small batch specialty coffee, but delivered right to your front door. So go to mystore.com or call the number on your screen. Use the promo code and you'll get your very own My Coffee for 25% off. You guys all know that I've traveled the country for the past year and a half. I've stayed in hundreds of hotels. I've tried every coffee out there. Well, some of the coffees have that terrible aftertaste, some that leave me jittery, or I get an upset stomach. Well, My Coffee is different. It's the richest, smoothest, best coffee I've ever had. My Coffee comes in a variety of flavors. You get them ground or whole bean, plus it's certified organic and non-GMO. I guarantee it'll be the best coffee you've ever had. So go to mystore.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code and you'll get My Coffee for 25% off. And I'm going to give you deep discounts on all my store products. That's mystore.com. It's my new platform for USA entrepreneurs. Please order now.
Welcome back to Live Up to Freedom. Thank you so much for staying with us until now. Grab your bag or bags of my coffee at mystore.com using promo code AC21 and get 25% off, or just use promo code AC21, the entire mystore.com, and get yourself discounts while supporting Mike Lindell, Lindell TV, Frank Speech, and this specific broadcast. Okay, Kristen, you mentioned something before we took the break that, even though we're almost at the end of our program today, I want to touch on. Immigration, anti-immigrants. I'm an immigrant who's an anti-immigrant now, apparently, just because simply I want to make sure to kind of, sort of, I guess, for my own safety and my fellow Americans, I don't really want 60,000+ Afghans that just claim to be Afghans flown over to the country without any background check, without knowing who they are. What is this? What is this new, I guess, manipulation of words when it comes to it? From what I understand, you're not an immigrant if you just barge into somebody's country, are you?
No, you're an economic immigrant. Now, they do have refugees that are allowed, and I know that historically, Western countries have been enormously helpful, sympathetic, allowed in, carefully allowed in refugees, genuine refugees, which comes with a definition, your first country of refuge. And this is not what's happening here. These Muslim migrants, particularly, and these other migrants that you see internationally, and you see them in your southern border coming in from Mexico, they're making a choice to escape because they're economic migrants. But unfortunately, among them, and it's been proven, you have members of the Islamic State, you have the worst druggies, drug cartels, the worst criminals. And I challenge anybody that wants to call people like you and me who ascribe to responsible immigration. We're not anti-immigrant or anti-refugee. We ascribe to responsible immigration. I challenge all of you who would like to call us anti-immigrant to leave your doors unlocked wherever you are, to leave your cars unlocked, to let your children go out any time of night and play without any reservation whatsoever, because that is what leaders are doing today when it comes to open door immigration. It is not an issue of being against all immigrants. It's an issue of vetting, responsible immigration, watching the gates to make sure who comes in. Nobody has a problem with good people, good, hardworking people who bring something to a nation. Nobody is calling every immigrant and every refugee a criminal. You'd have to be, I hate to put it this way, but you'd have to be stupid to not understand what this means. You'd have to be really stupid. I think what's happening in society is that people have gotten to a point where they're afraid of their governments. They're afraid to speak out. They're afraid to challenge. So they just go the way of least resistance. They just go by whatever the media tells them. They go by what the government tells them. But nobody could be that stupid to actually believe that people who ascribe to responsible immigration are actually anti-immigrant. Nobody could be that stupid.
I want to say they can, but with evidence of what is happening in Canada, in America, in Europe, I don't know. The percentage of stupid is going higher and higher every day. I'm sorry.
Stupid versus agenda. And I think that is the conversation for another day, Annie.
Absolutely. We are at the very last moments of our show. Kristen, tell my audience where they can find you, where they can follow you, and what do you want them to take away today? Of course, we will definitely have you back, but today, what do you want them to take with them after listening to you today?
Read more than the headlines. Trust your gut feelings. Do not let the media decide for you what's important. Do not let government decide for you what's important. The biggest question is, do you trust government? That is a big question to ponder. And whatever your answer is, ponder it and make decisions based on that answer. Now, where you could find me on Jihad Watch and on Front Page Magazine, also at the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem, Canada.
Fabulous. Thank you so very much, Kristen. I appreciate you being with us today and your time, and you'll be coming back, right?
I sure will, Annie. You're a breath of fresh air.
Perfect. I appreciate that. And to our audience, as always, stay safe and stay vigilant. God bless you, and God bless America. Goodbye.
You're watching Lindell TV.